It's KJ Carson on WEEI. WEEI.
I'll let Chaim and those guys explain that, or John Henry, whoever. I'll let them explain that. I'll let them explain it. If they ever want to explain it, I'll let them explain it. They don't have to.
Welcome home, Mookie Betts. KJ, along with John Lyons, WEEI, 617-779-7937. Text line 37937. Good Saturday afternoon to you, leading up to the pregame for the Red Sox for Game 2 against the Dodgers. John, how did you feel seeing Mookie step to the plate for the first time in a few years?
Oh, KJ, it was just devastating for me to watch that happen in person. And I actually had the privilege a couple weeks ago. I went out to San Diego and I saw a Padres versus Dodgers game because, of course, KJ, I wanted to see a bunch of great Red Sox players, so I had to go to San Diego to see Padres-Dodgers. So I got to see Mookie play in person. That was the first time I had seen him play in person since he had been traded from the Red Sox. Of course, I did see him play in the World Series in 2020 on TV and win it. But for me, last night was just really sad because I think back to KJ, Mookie's the biggest piece of it, but it goes beyond him because you think about a team in 2018, won 108 games, one of the best teams ever, and they win a World Series. And let's look at the core that they had just in the field. You had Mookie, Benintendi, Bogarts, Vasquez, all these guys, Devers. You have one left, and that to me, it was a Mookie thing for me last night. But then it also kind of took me back to wow, they had this great core, and you got one guy left.
So here's what you just said, John. Mookie Betts is still good and watchable.
Yes.
So here's the thing. When Mookie said, I'll let Chaim or John Henry answer the questions of what didn't happen, it's the difference between being the player and the face. Now, you can be a player all you want, but when you become the face, that's when things can get a little weird. So if you look at Yaz, he's from New York. You look at, Matt Siegel is from New York. A lot of star players in Boston are from other places. And so what usually they end up having to do is answer questions about Boston to people who are not in Boston. And Mookie Betts was one of those guys who said to himself, because you can tell, I want to be in a place so that way I can give positive answers from my perspective to those who ask. This isn't about the people of Boston. This is about the economics of Boston, okay? So if Mookie Betts is the face of the Boston Red Sox, that may not play for some people, and that may be why you don't necessarily want to delve out hundreds of millions of dollars, because remember the narrative when Mookie was looking at the money. He's worth, that's too much. There's no way I would pay him that much. Really? You don't physically pay him, and look what he's doing now. Bets at Vegas have him at number 2 to win the NL MVP. Now, he's not going to win it. Acuna's just had an incredible season. But if Acuna didn't still 50,000 bases, Mookie Betts is your odds-on favorite as the MVP after the trade. Tell me when Verdugo didn't hit that home run, it was very similar to if you made an error in Little League and you got up the next inning to rectify it, you could almost feel that Verdugo's home run last night was kind of like, all this talk about I'm the face of that trade and I've got to do something and I've done it. It was more than just a home run. It was the home run about all the conversation. Mookie was willing to be one of the faces of this city and of this area, and it didn't happen, and it hurt.
Yeah, and KJ, for 2 years, in my opinion, 2018 and 19, Mookie really was the face of the Red Sox. And I know he had made a couple All-Star games before then, but those 2 years to me, his age 25 and 26 seasons, his last two, he became the face of the Red Sox. And if we look back on that, he won the MVP in 2018. He was a Gold Glover that year and a Silver Slugger. And then in 2019, he finished top 10 in MVP voting again, another Gold Glove and another Silver Slugger. So him as the face of the Red Sox was working out terrific. I mean, you had won a World Series. He was one of the most dominant players in baseball. And by the way, then the year after you trade him, he hits, 296 in the playoffs in 2020 to help the Dodgers win a World Series there. So, it was what you talk about him being willing to be the face. And I agree with you. And I think it was even beyond him willing. I think it got to a point where he was, and it was working. And that's the thing, too, that makes it, really unfortunate. Like I said, it's that whole core. like Bogarts, Devers, Betts, Benintendi, and then if you want to even extend it, Eovaldi, guys like that. We have one of those guys.
Yes.
We have one of those guys left. And look, Devers, great hitter, and I think he's going to end up having a great career, at least at the plate. He is a liability in the field right now, but seems like a good teammate and a good guy to have on your team. But when you have one of those guys left in a market this big, that to me, like, I was sad to see Mookie last night in another uniform, but I was also sad to think about all the infrastructure around him that's no longer here, which, by the way, it's not like that 2018 team was filled with a bunch of guys in their last, go at it or the end of the road. I mean, those are guys in their 20s, in their prime, and they're still, some of them at least, in their prime. Eovaldi's a Cy Young candidate this year when he's been healthy, and they're not here anymore.
Well, here's the other part of it, is Mookie Betts has a traveling documentary crew with him. And Mookie talks about the reverence that he has for Jackie Robinson. Watch how this ties together. Last team to integrate Major League Baseball?
The Red Sox.
Boston Red Sox. Was it with like a Larry Doby type or Jackie Robinson type? No, it was Pumpsy Green, probably a utility fielder at best.
Yeah, and also, KJ, not to cut you off, but the Red Sox had workouts with Jackie Robinson and Willie Mays and turned both of them down. So
right.
Imagine those two guys with Ted Williams.
Well,
just saying.
but it really does come down to who you choose, right? And if really your history says Pumpsy Green, George Scott for a little bit, Jim Rice, and I would even challenge some just rhetorically, where is Jim Rice's field located, right? Like, if you don't know that, and in fairness to Rice, there were a lot of great black baseball players that Major League Baseball were pushing that were a little bit older than Jackson, Winfield, some of those guys that were getting more push. He should have gotten a bigger push by the league as one of its superstars. It didn't happen. But Mookie Betts was 1 or 1A to Mike Trout. Now, when Ohtani comes, maybe you say, okay, Mookie's in that top 3, but he's in the conversation, and he's the face, and he's part of the marketing aspect that goes on, and it also would put a B on a stamp of it. And by that not happening, and then him going to the Dodgers, there's a perspective that he may have that almost kind of like, gosh, did I just get Pumpsy Greened by the Red Sox?